One person wakes already behind. The alarm has been silenced 3 times. A bill is due, but the money assigned to it disappeared in an unplanned purchase. The room is unsettled, the laundry is unfinished, and 10 minutes vanish looking for something that should have had a place. By evening, another commitment must be cancelled. Before sleeping, this person makes the same private promise again. Tomorrow, I will do better. Another person wakes with no perfect life, but with an ordered one. The morning has a rhythm. Obligations are visible. Commitments are clear. The home is functional. The calendar has margin. And the person can help someone without creating a crisis somewhere else. There are still pressures, surprises, and tired days. But difficulty does not automatically produce disorder. Now listen carefully. Both people may desire love. Both may pray for a dependable partner. Both may describe the kind of relationship they hope to build. But desire is not the question. The governing question is this: which of your private habits will become relationship problems if they remain undisciplined? Pause there. Do not answer with your intentions. Answer with your patterns. Affection can hide disorder for a season. Excitement can make chronic lateness look small. Attraction can soften the first conversation about neglected responsibilities. But partnership gives another person daily exposure to what solitude allowed you to conceal. Your habits enter the relationship with you. Your use of money enters. Your treatment of time enters. Your care for your body, your home, your word, and your inner life, all of it enters. A relationship does not erase the life you have practiced. It gives someone else a place inside it. Some people treat singleness like a waiting room. They assume real responsibility begins when the right person arrives. No. Singleness is not suspended life. It is a revealing environment. It shows whether you can keep a promise when nobody applauds, restore order when nobody visits, and prepare for tomorrow when nobody is watching. This is where dependability is practiced before it is requested by someone you love. Write this principle down. Say it aloud. Discipline is the private order that makes public trust possible. Again, private order, public trust. This is not a message about making yourself worthy of love through flawless performance. It is about becoming trustworthy with what love will eventually require. Future love will be protected or pressured by the order you are building today. So we are going to examine the evidence: your money, your time, your health, your home, your commitments, and your spiritual practice. Not to shame you, but to show you where trust is already being strengthened and where preventable strain is quietly being prepared. At the center of that examination is one word: discipline. But before we apply it, we must understand what it truly means. Discipline is not punishment. It is not the angry voice that tells you pleasure is wrong, rest is weakness, or one mistake has disqualified you. People resist discipline because they confuse it with deprivation. They hear the word and imagine a life reduced by rules. But properly understood, discipline does not reduce life. It protects the life you have chosen. Let me define it carefully. Discipline is the ability to govern desire, convenience, and emotion according to purpose and chosen commitments. It is self-government. That means your feelings may speak, but they do not automatically decide. Convenience may offer an easier path, but it does not possess final authority. Desire may be strong, but strength is not the same as permission. Write this down. Discipline gives purpose, authority over impulse. Say it again. Purpose over impulse. Restriction merely says no. Government knows what the no is protecting. You decline one option because you have already given yourself to a greater yes. You stop spending here because an important obligation is waiting there. You leave margin in your schedule because your word must remain dependable. You interrupt a harmful pattern because the future you have chosen deserves more authority than the feeling passing through you now. That is not bondage. That is freedom. We have defined freedom too cheaply. Freedom is not the absence of boundaries. If every mood can redirect you, every appetite can command you, and every inconvenience can cancel your commitment, you are not free. You are being governed, just not by purpose. Real freedom is the capacity to do what you chose after the excitement of choosing has disappeared. It is the ability to keep a promise when keeping it is no longer comfortable. Now watch this. Discipline is not mood. Mood waits to feel ready. Discipline acts from decision. Discipline is not intention. Intention admires the right destination. Discipline establishes a way to reach it. Discipline is not emergency effort, that sudden burst of activity when consequences finally become frightening. And discipline is not image management, looking organized while private responsibilities remain unattended. Appearance asks, what do people think? Self-government asks, what have I actually brought under order? Take a breath, because this also means discipline is not perfection. A disciplined person can fail. The difference is that failure does not become a new ruler. The disciplined person acknowledges what happened, repairs what can be repaired, learns what the failure exposed, and returns to order. No hiding, no theatrical self-condemnation, no grand promise designed to replace a corrected practice. Struggle may be present, but struggle does not receive governing authority. So beside that definition, write one area where impulse currently has too much power. Name it without shame and without excuses. Then ask for evidence. Where is purpose actually governing? Your calendar will answer. Your accounts will answer. Your body, your rooms, your commitments, and your spiritual practice will answer. Invisible character always leaves visible testimony in ordinary routines. Now turn that testimony into a control panel. 6 areas, 1 life: money, time, health, home, commitments, and spiritual practice. Do not examine them as separate decorations. They function together. When one area loses order, another area often pays the bill. Poor rest affects time. Mismanaged time pressures commitments. Neglected space wastes energy. Financial confusion creates avoidance. A private practice without correction leaves the entire system without honest review. Write the 6 domains down. Beside each one, place a score from 1 to 5. 1 means this area is repeatedly unmanaged. 5 means it is consistently governed by a visible, dependable system. But listen carefully. You are scoring the last 30 days, not your aspirations, not your personality, not what you meant to do, not the version of yourself you explain to people. Behavior only. What you repeatedly manage is stronger evidence than what you sincerely intend. You may sincerely value health, but what did your care of the body demonstrate? You may believe time is precious, but what did your schedule reveal? You may call yourself dependable, but did your word require reminders, excuses, or last-minute negotiation? This audit is not asking what you admire. It is asking what your values have become in practice. Now use 3 diagnostic signs. The first is recurring surprise. You keep acting shocked by events that were visible, predictable, or likely. The second is repeated rescue. Someone else, a sudden scramble, or tomorrow's resources must repeatedly absorb what today's system failed to handle. The third is a promise that depends on mood. You follow through when energy is high, conditions are easy, or enthusiasm is present, but the practice disappears when emotion changes. Recurring surprise, repeated rescue, mood-dependent promises. Where those patterns appear, do not pronounce a character sentence over yourself. A low score is not proof that you lack worth. It is evidence that this part of your life requires structure. That distinction matters. Shame says, I am hopeless. Ownership says, this pattern is unreliable, and I can build a better one. One attacks identity, the other identifies work. So be calm, but be honest. A generous score helps nobody. A cruel score teaches nothing. Measure what happened. If money was avoided, record it. If time was repeatedly surrendered, record it. If health was treated only when discomfort became urgent, record it. If home, commitments, or spiritual practice operated without a dependable rhythm, let the number tell the truth without turning the truth into humiliation. For every domain scoring low, complete this sentence in writing. If another person depended on this pattern, the cost would be, finish the sentence. The cost might be uncertainty, extra labor, confusion, delayed plans, emotional fatigue, or weakened trust. Name the consequence your present pattern could transfer to someone else. Then circle the 2 domains that would create the greatest strain under shared dependence. Keep them visible. Those 2 circles will return when we build a 30-day assignment, because discipline becomes credible when values are translated into visible systems. And we begin with the domain people often postpone until avoidance becomes anxiety: money. Before emotion gives it instructions, money needs government. Start with the score you gave money. If it was low, do not hide it behind income. More money can enlarge capacity, but it cannot replace government. A person can earn little and manage truthfully. A person can earn much and remain confused. The immediate question is not, how impressive is the amount? It is, can you explain where it goes? Financial discipline is truthful management. You know what comes in, what must go out, what is owed, and what remains. Nothing mysterious, nothing theatrical, truth first. Financial image is different. Image wants to appear generous, successful, relaxed, or unrestricted. It spends for the reaction and avoids the record. It says, I can afford it, when the real meaning is the payment will go through. But access is not affordability. A transaction can be approved while an obligation is being betrayed. Write this down. Money without an assignment will accept instructions from appetite. Appetite is persuasive because it speaks now. Rent is quiet until the deadline. Debt is quiet until the statement arrives. A promise made to another person may sit silently while a purchase presents itself with color, urgency, and convenience. So imagine that $200 in an account is already needed for rent, debt, or a prior commitment. Then an unplanned purchase costs $80. The buyer says, I still have $120. No. If all $200 already had work to do, there was no available $80. The purchase did not merely reduce a balance, it displaced a responsibility. That is why every dollar needs an assignment before desire begins negotiating. Use this sequence. First, record all income you can actually expect. Second, list fixed obligations and their due dates. Third, identify every debt honestly balanced, required payment, and status. Fourth, set boundaries for flexible spending before the week begins. Fifth, review the entire plan every week. Say the sequence again: record, list, identify, limit, review. Do not make the system so elaborate that you abandon it. A simple plan you examine is more useful than a beautiful plan you avoid. During the weekly review, ask, what came in? What left? What changed? What requires repair? If you overspent, face it quickly. Adjust what remains. Communicate where another person is affected, and correct the pattern that allowed appetite to overrule obligation. Repair is part of discipline because honesty must continue after error. Now identify one financial fact you have delayed confronting. An unopened statement, an uncertain balance, a payment date you keep refusing to confirm. Write it down and give yourself a definite time to face it. Embarrassment loses power when facts become visible and action becomes specific. Financial readiness is not a particular income level. It is a repeatable pattern of honesty, planning, restraint, and repair. Reliable partnership requires that pattern before money becomes a shared concern. And the same law governs another limited resource. Dollars reveal priority when they leave the account. Hours reveal priority when they enter the calendar. So next, we must examine whether your schedule can support the promises your mouth is making. Time must be assigned with the same honesty as money. Yet many people call everything important while protecting time for almost nothing. Work is important, family is important, rest is important, service is important, health is important. Every request is important. Then the week begins, urgency takes control, and the calendar exposes what enthusiasm concealed. Busyness is not proof of faithfulness. A crowded schedule may indicate purpose, or it may indicate weak boundaries. It may mean you are productive, or it may mean you are afraid to disappoint anyone for 5 minutes, so you disappoint everyone eventually. Write this down. A commitment is a promise that has received time, preparation, and a realistic boundary. Not merely a sincere yes, not a hopeful intention, a promise supported by capacity. If you agree to something but never decide when it will be done, you have not planned a commitment, you have created a future emergency. Then comes the familiar chain. Overpromising produces rushing. Rushing produces lateness. Lateness produces apology. Repeated pressure produces cancellation. And cancellation slowly damages trust. After a while, even your honest promises sound uncertain because people have learned to wait for your behavior. If your calendar cannot carry your promise, your mouth should not create it. Consider the person who automatically says yes to co-workers, friends, extended family, and every urgent request. This person appears generous. But at home, meals are delayed, agreed, plans are changed, and necessary conversations keep being postponed. The explanation is always reasonable. Someone needed me. Perhaps they did. But the automatic yes given outside the home repeatedly becomes a broken promise inside it. One person receives immediate assistance while another receives the accumulated cost. That is not capacity management. That is unexamined access. Before giving your next yes, use 4 questions. First, does this serve my purpose? Not, could I possibly do it? Almost anything is possible once. Ask whether it belongs in the life you are responsible for governing. Second, do I have capacity? Capacity includes time, energy, attention, travel, preparation, and recovery. An empty hour is not always an available hour. Third, what must I decline? Every yes occupies space. If you cannot name what will move, you are pretending the space is unlimited. Fourth, where will this live on the calendar? Give it a day, a time, and enough room to complete it without borrowing peace from every surrounding obligation. Purpose, capacity, cost, calendar. Use the filter before emotion volunteers resources already committed elsewhere. Now examine one existing yes that is currently unsupported. Do not make another speech about trying harder. Choose one action, schedule it, renegotiate it, or release it. If another person is affected, communicate before the deadline forces the conversation. Keep that decision visible. In the final assignment, it must receive a date and a definite action. Truthful boundaries do not make you uncaring. They make your care believable. Dependability is built when commitments are chosen truthfully and supported visibly. But the calendar cannot perform its promises by itself. Your body must supply the energy, and your home must support the preparation. So now we must examine whether the physical life carrying these commitments is helping, purpose, function, or quietly making every promise harder to keep. What physical conditions allow you to keep a scheduled commitment with energy and attention? That is the question. Not, does my body resemble somebody else's? Not, would my home impress a visitor? Comparison is irrelevant. Stewardship begins with the body and circumstances you actually have. Health discipline is not appearance management. It is a responsible response to your present capacity. Rest, nourishment, movement, hygiene, necessary appointments, and appropriate help when needed, these are not decorations. They support the energy from which you work, serve, prepare, listen, and care. Different bodies require different forms of attention. Different seasons permit different levels of activity. The standard is not sameness. The standard is responsible care. Write this down. Caring for the body protects your capacity to care for people. That does not mean every day will feel strong. It means weakness is not ignored until it becomes an emergency. It means you stop treating exhaustion as a medal and basic care as an optional reward. If something requires professional help, discipline does not pretend independence. It seeks appropriate support. Self-government includes knowing when you should not govern alone. Now bring the same honesty into the home. Order is not a showroom. It is an environment in which purpose can function. A home may be modest and still support responsibility. It may be busy and still have useful rhythms. The issue is not whether every surface shines. The issue is whether ordinary needs can be met without a daily investigation. Where are the keys? Is there clean clothing? Is anything available for a meal? Do we have the essential supply that everyone assumed someone else replaced? Some people know the location of every missing item only after conducting a search worthy of a detective. You are not disorganized, you say, you are looking. Again, for the same keys, at the same hour, with the same urgent speech. Take a breath. Repeated rescue is not a system. Neglected laundry steals preparation time. Missing essentials force unnecessary trips. Cluttered surfaces consume attention because every task begins with clearing yesterday. Unplanned meals turn predictable hunger into sudden pressure. Small disorder does not remain small when it repeatedly demands energy from commitments that already require it. Install 2 minimum systems. First, establish a daily reset. Choose the essential spaces that must return to function before the day ends. The place where you prepare food, the place where necessary items belong, the clothing or work area required for tomorrow. Restore function, not perfection. Second, establish a weekly preparation block. Review food, clothing, household supplies, appointments, and upcoming needs. Ask what the next 7 days will require before those requirements become urgent. Preparation is care delivered early. Now, choose one essential space and one physical routine to stabilize first. Perhaps the routine is a consistent rest boundary, planned nourishment, movement within your capacity, hygiene, an overdue appointment, or obtaining appropriate help. Make both choices specific and add them to the 30-day practice plan. Do not attempt to renovate your entire life by Friday. Build proof through repetition. A body receiving responsible care and a home returning regularly to function create usable capacity. They make attention more available, preparation more believable, and care more consistent. But there is another room no guest can inspect. You can restore the visible environment while leaving motives, conscience, and direction unexamined. So we must move inward to the private practice that corrects you before conflict has to do it. Public spiritual language is easy to acquire. You can learn the vocabulary, repeat the principles, and sound certain in a room full of people, but language cannot examine your motives for you. Vocabulary cannot expose resentment, interrupt pride, or turn conviction into repair. Public expression may reveal what you believe. Private practice reveals whether you are willing to be governed by it. Write this down. A private practice should do more than comfort you. It should make you correctable. Correctable. Say that word again. Spiritual discipline is a recurring appointment in which you become available for truth. It may include reflection, prayer, study, gratitude, or honest examination. The form may vary, but the purpose is alignment. You are bringing conduct back under examined conviction before impulse and defensiveness. Establish the direction and listen carefully. Consistency matters more than emotional intensity. Some days the practice may feel profound. Other days it may feel ordinary. Do not confuse an ordinary experience with a useless one. Discipline continues when there is no emotional performance to reward it. You return because direction still requires review. Here is the relational test. Can you admit that you were wrong without adding a speech that makes you right again? Can you receive correction without treating every concern as an attack? Can you identify the harm your conduct caused, make a sincere repair, and change the pattern that produced it? If every apology contains a defense, pride is still conducting the conversation. A person who cannot examine the self privately will usually resist being examined relationally. Then disagreement becomes dangerous, not because conflict is unusual, but because correction feels like humiliation. The goal of spiritual practice is not to make you impossible to confront. It is to make you honest enough that confrontation is not always the first place truth reaches you. Use this 5-move rhythm. First, become still. Withdraw briefly from noise, performance, and reaction. Second, review your conduct. Examine the day or week. Where did your actions agree with your convictions? Where did they depart? Third, name what is true. No exaggeration, no excuse, no theatrical shame. Fourth, realign the next action. Decide what truth now requires. An apology, a changed boundary, a kept promise, a difficult conversation, or a corrected habit. Fifth, record one concrete response. 1. Give it a time, a person, or a next step. Stillness, review, truth, realignment, response. Now choose a realistic appointment for this practice. Daily, several times each week, or one protected weekly period. Choose a rhythm you can actually keep. Inflated promises are not spiritual maturity. Chosen consistency is. This practice will not eliminate disagreement. It keeps pride from hardening around an unexamined pattern and makes repair available sooner. Carry this rhythm into the 30-day plan. Now all 6 domains must face one test together. Money, time, health, home, commitments, and spiritual practice may appear orderly in isolation. But what happens when closeness, inconvenience, interruption, and shared dependence place pressure on the whole life at once? The 6 domains do not take turns under pressure. They arrive together. Imagine an ordinary week. A necessary expense appears that was not expected. The schedule is already crowded. Rest has been neglected. The home has fallen out of rhythm. So basic preparation takes longer than it should. And before any of this happened, you gave your word that something important would be completed. Now another person is depending on you. Watch the chain carefully. Because the financial facts were not fully known, the expense produces confusion instead of a clear decision. Because the calendar contains no margin, handling it requires taking time from an existing obligation. Because the body is tired, a manageable adjustment feels like an unreasonable demand. Because the home is not functioning well, more energy disappears into preparation. The prior commitment is now at risk, and the necessary conversation has been delayed. Then the other person asks a simple question: what is happening? That question did not create the pressure, it exposed it. But defensiveness is tempting because honesty now feels costly. You may minimize the expense, blame the weak, resent the interruption, or act as though the other person's concern is the problem. One unmanaged fact reduced the available options. The next disorder narrowed them further. By the time the truth reaches the relationship, another person is being asked to carry uncertainty, extra work, emotional tension, or a broken agreement. Love is not tested only by crisis. It is tested by what your daily systems cause another person to carry. Now replay the same week with simple order in place. The expense is still inconvenient. Discipline does not make bills disappear, but the financial position is known, so the person can explain the facts without hiding. The calendar has some margin, so options can be considered before a promise is sacrificed. Essential routines have protected enough rest and household function to reduce unnecessary strain. The prior commitment is visible, so limits can be communicated early. And private reflection makes it possible to notice fear or pride before either one controls the conversation. The response may be, I cannot do everything as originally planned. Here are the facts. Here is what I can do. Here is what must be renegotiated. Here is where I need cooperation. And here is the part I failed to prepare for. That is preparation. Write this down. Preparation is the practiced ability to remain truthful, responsible, and correctable when another life is affected by yours. Order does not prevent every disruption. It does not guarantee comfort, remove disappointment, or give you control over another person's response. Order improves your ability to tell the truth, adjust without disappearing, cooperate without resentment, and repair what your conduct has damaged. So test your readiness with 5 questions. Can I be interrupted without abandoning responsibility? Can I disclose facts without hiding? Can I renegotiate without blaming? Can I receive correction? Can I restore order after disruption? Do not answer quickly. Let your recent behavior answer. Which question makes you uncomfortable? That discomfort may be showing you where pressure still governs your conduct. Now return to your audit. From the 2 domains you circled, identify the lower scoring one. Then choose one reliability question that exposes how that domain behaves when another person depends on you. Keep both visible. The simulation is finished. The next test will occur in your actual life. For 30 days, you will stop describing the dependable person you intend to become and begin collecting evidence of the person your practices are producing. Insight becomes preparation only when it survives ordinary life. So for the next 30 days, you are not attempting to impress yourself with a dramatic reinvention. You are establishing evidence. Write down these 4 laws. What is hidden will eventually become shared. The financial fact you avoid, the commitment you cannot support, the pattern you keep explaining dependence will eventually bring its consequences into another person's life. What is unmeasured remains easy to excuse. If you do not record the behavior, memory will edit the story. What is scheduled becomes governable. A sincere intention without an appointed time is still available for impulse to overrule. What is repaired becomes stronger than what is merely regretted. Regret feels deeply. Repair changes something. Now return to the 2 domains you circled. Choose the lower scoring one as your primary domain. 1. Do not attempt to rebuild all 6 at once. Grand overhauls often produce dramatic beginnings and quiet abandonment. Focused discipline produces testimony. Build your 30-day commitment with 5 elements. First, one behavior. Choose an action that can be observed. Not manage money better, but complete the weekly financial review. Not be more responsible, but resolve the unsupported commitment. If your delayed financial fact is still hidden, facing it becomes part of the first action. If an unsupported yes remains unresolved, schedule it, renegotiate it, or release it. Second, one schedule. Decide exactly when the behavior will occur. Give it a day, a time, and a realistic duration. Schedule the first occurrence today. Third, one boundary. Name what must not overrule the practice: a spending limit, a protected hour, a refusal to accept another obligation before reviewing capacity, a rest boundary. Make the boundary plain enough to obey. Fourth, one weekly review. At the same time each week, ask, what did I complete? What did I avoid? What interrupted the system? Who carried a cost when I failed? What adjustment is required? Fifth, one form of visible proof. Use a dated record, completed checklist, confirmed payment, calendar entry, repaired agreement, restored space, kept appointment, or written corrective action. Proof must show conduct, not merely emotion. One behavior, one schedule, one boundary, one review, one proof. Now listen. Missing one day does not authorize 30 days of disorder. Use the repair protocol. Acknowledge the miss. Identify the trigger. Make any needed repair. Adjust the system. Resume at the next scheduled opportunity. No theatrical self-condemnation. Discipline is not pretending you never fail. It is refusing to let failure govern the future. At the end of 30 days, review the documented evidence. Ask whether the chosen domain became more dependable and whether your reliability question now receives a stronger answer from behavior. Then decide which practice should be retained and which one should be expanded. Do not make another promise about the person you will become. Establish a practice that can testify for you. The goal was never to look perfect enough to be chosen. The goal is to become orderly enough to carry love with truth, steadiness, and freedom. Record your first action. Record your review date. Begin today.